Call the meeting to order at 7 o'clock. First order of business is bringing the alternate in, soon to be regular member of the board. I have a motion for that.
So moved.
Seconded. All those in favor, somebody saying aye?
Aye.
Aye. The agenda. Public participation. No. Well, that's good. Is there a basketball game on tonight? We go watch or something?
Football.
What time?
8:30? It's 8:30.
Who's playing?
San Francisco.
Ooh.
And the Redskins, right?
Yeah, the Redskins, yeah.
Yeah.
Hey,
Son of a gun, right on it.
I saw the Patriots game last.
Correspondence. Approval of the minutes of October the 28th, 2013. Are there any additions and deletions?
I wasn't here, so I just have one question. Was Paula actually at the meeting?
Yes.
I didn't know if that was a typo. Right.
Make a motion to approve as presented.
There's a second?
Second.
Discussion, all that in favor, say aye. Correspondence. We have no quarterly from the Board of Ed. We have no quarterly from the general government. And we jump right to the Finance Director's report.
It's not a reporting month, but last month there was some questions.
Don't miss a chance.
No, you had some questions, like with the Recreation Department,
Right.
for example, and the Parks and Grounds. There are some things that need to be reclassed. A lot of the expenses, like with buses, where they were almost at their limit, it is because of the summer, and they shouldn't go over. They're basically done with that.
Okay.
The river fires, which was the 1461 and 5504, they actually went over budget with salary for that line item. So that's basically that. And they gave me a whole bunch of things they want reclassified. I have to really look into it to see if that's
Who's they?
proper. Recreation Department.
What do you mean
Oh,
by
yeah.
reclassify?
Changed the expense to where it was charged.
Charge it to something else?
Mm-hmm.
Does it make
So-
any difference? I mean,
Well, first item on my agenda is to look all these up and see if they were properly expensed to begin with.
oh, okay,
If they were not, then they need to be moved.
I understand.
But regardless, they are over on that one line to the river fire salary.
But it won't change his bottom line, so it's just gonna change where it comes from.
So that's pretty much.
But Peter was making a good point when he made it the last time, is that, maybe not the last time, the time before that time, is that when people, when units are running over budget, it's gotta tell folks or come in and say what's going on, other than saying, oh gee, July has come, I'm over by that much, isn't that too bad? Gotta kind of,
Not for it.
not a good way of working.
Well, quite frankly, I know with the river fires, each river fire is 90 minutes. So you know what kind of manpower you need for that, and why it's over is they worked more. And
Again, it's like what Peter was saying, and I'll say for myself, not for him, but is that, yeah, okay, I mean, no one's going to stand up and everybody likes some river fires and all this other thing, but it's more the answerability for not only that, that's a minor thing. I don't know how much it came out to, I don't know how many, couple of $1,000 or something like that, whatever it is.
well,
We just have to make
initially,
sure it doesn't keep happening, that next year they
That's
should know
okay.
that and
they were
get
like
that money in the right
$5,000
place.
over.
It was
$5,000.
Yeah, it's a lot,
Yeah.
yeah, that
Which,
is.
in
Because last
the
year they were
discussion,
10,000,
they know
weren't they?
each fire is 90 minutes. And so, one of the things was, well, maybe it went longer, and I'm like, well, maybe you need to keep them to 90 minutes.
Well, then they ought to budget it accordingly, Mr. Place.
Again,
To
it's,
be honest with you, I didn't know that they were over budget.
well,
I'm hearing it tonight, so.
And that's been kind of the problem, is that they send it into the treasurer's office and it comes out at the end of the year. I don't see too many minuses, for budgets. Everybody's coming in with a plus. It's one thing, it's a few bucks here and there, we had more for mailing or whatever it is. When you start talking about, there aren't that many outfits we have. Someone's, the leaders of it or the head of it or what have you should be telling us, telling the mayor, telling somebody.
When did you start the job? Do you remember?
About 7 months ago.
7 months ago? What about, what was the date? Do you know approximately?
April
It was in April?
2nd.
Almost April Fool, but.
Yeah.
But I will investigate it, let Tony know the reason why it went over budget that much.
Yeah, and there were a few other, there were other things.
To me, what should happen with regard to the mayor, when you meet with the supervisors, whether it's once a week or whatever it is, finance should be brought up. Are they meeting their budget? Are they online meeting their budget? Or where do they stand with regard to the budget? Then it won't be a surprise when we go over this. It'll be a lot easier than having to go through all these line items that we are forecasting to be much.
Unfortunately, we're not blessed like the Board of Ed is. We'll just change it from, you're not there anymore. So, we'll just change it from, this to that, and
Well, we can't sweep it down to the bottom and redistribute it, is what you're saying.
Right.
there's no way of doing that. It's got to come out of.
Are the department heads being provided with a monthly report of the status?
Not monthly, they used to be provided quarterly, and they're still getting quarterly.
They just started. But now, I don't mean I just started for this fiscal year, right? This for July.
This, right, they.
So now so starting this past July 1st, they're getting a quarterly report?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah,
When the whole new system
yeah.
gets up and running, we can provide them with monthly reports.
Yeah.
If we had Microsoft Outlook, the system could automatically email everybody. It could be a scheduled thing that goes out at the first of the month or whenever you want to run it. And they would all automatically get a report. We don't have Outlook because that costs, I think it was, it's been a while since I visited that issue. I don't know if it was $5.80 a person or something like that.
Anyway, but, I mean, maybe they need, maybe we should get it quarterly, and when they get it, we get it, if it's quarterly.
When I was registered, I thought I got a monthly report.
Well, quarterly would work.
It came out in the last meeting, there was a quarterly report, so.
Yeah.
I mean,
I knew exactly what my budget was.
Well, everybody knows what their budget is at the beginning of the year. So
We can
I mean,
divide by
if you're
4.
ordering, I don't care if it's paper or ink or whatever, you know what you're spending.
Right.
Oh, maybe I got a quarterly
No.
report.
Well,
thought-
I think sometimes in this department that they have, I don't think they have to look at that budget to know what they're spending.
Well, the group was
You
spending.
can't go $5,000 over
They're not following it.
on
what they're
River
not
Fire.
doing.
That
That's
went
the
right
problem.
through payroll, so.
Well, but that's, again, things, you get some, having the highway department working, I mean, you can't very well not pay them. I mean, that's happened,
I think
that's
because-
all after the fact, but
I think
it's
because-
not his responsibility.
I think because we had a gap, okay? There was a gap when Paul left, and it was, I don't know who that lady was that came along.
She worked on the budgets, her name was Cheryl.
Yeah, okay, and it's my understanding, from talking to some people, that there was some reports that just weren't there
Well-
anymore, And I think that now that we've started with at least a quarterly report, we can look at those reports, and if we find that there's people that have gone over, we just call them in,
So,
and say, you gotta tell us why.
so Ms. Savoy, perhaps you could mail it, send it to us through the mayor, whatever the process is for getting it to us. That we could-
Quarterly report?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You think it's, I don't know, but anybody think it's a bad idea? or-
No.
Like I said too, I really want to move toward monthly.
I will.
Okay, well, until you get there,
Right. It's a goal.
well, that's a goal, but until you get there, it's a good goal. Have some idea of what's being spent and what isn't. Anything else?
No?
When I worked for Danny, when I was a registrar, Danny would say, if you're gonna go over one line item, and sometimes it happens,
Yep.
okay, with the elections, additional election issues, what's the bottom line gonna look like?
Yeah.
That was the important thing, making sure that I didn't go over the total budget for the department.
Right.
That's what he was looking
Okay, moving on. I don't think we have to do anything with this, just unfinished business. And number 8 is
at. I'll wait for Doug to come up.
Doug to come up. B, Technology Park.
Just wait for Doug.
Where is Doug?
He's downstairs at the
Planning.
planning meeting to get the 300,000, request for $300,000, and we're gonna be voting on here shortly. He's getting it taken care of with the planning commission. He just told me before he went out the door.
Next item.
New business. Are all these unfinished, all with Doug?
No, I don't think so. I don't think D is.
D is consideration of resolution establishing economic development fund.
Yes, it is,
It is?
in part,
Okay.
because he had an idea.
Oh. That's D.
Before, like,
About the fiscal,
how about the collectibles? E.
We got those in the packet.
Yeah.
So that's taken care of, the response is adequate.
Is there anything else has to be done with that?
No.
or-
No. So that one's okay.
Is the new business is A, is that with Doug again?
Sounds like
Is B with bond,
Yep.
pay classifications,
I'm sure I know about it.
considerations? Maybe we just say it's Doug's meeting. Could avoid all the, maybe we should just recess till Doug shows up.
We could vote on the meeting schedule. That's
Good.
pretty simple, right?
it. If we can do that.
We could do the meeting schedule. Does anybody, what do you think of the meeting schedule, folks? What are we gonna do with that?
That's good.
Looks good? Can we pass it
Yeah, I think we go with it. We can always make adjustments
as we go?
as we go along.
Make a motion?
Make a motion that the minutes, the Board of Finance meeting minutes, meeting dates be accepted.
Second.
All those in favor, saying aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Passed unanimously. Alpha.
With your permission, back to D, under item 6. I know you're waiting for Doug. The Board of Finance had asked that we do some research to see if
Oh, yeah,
other
that's-
communities were,
I thought that was a little-
did have a resolution. And there are 2 other communities, municipalities, in addition to Killingly, and those are the town of Bolton and the town of Plainville. And it is actually allowed by Connecticut General Statute 7-148C-2-K, which allows for economic development trust funds in Connecticut. Basically, the one in Bolton, Bolton, pretty much aligns as the resolution that we put before you, and the one in Plainville is a little bit different. And we have had discussions with the finance director, and she was going to do a little bit of research from her end to see if other financial counterparts in other towns. She put out a quick email, but I don't think you heard anything back. Yeah.
Yeah, the question here too is, what are the other municipalities doing besides the 4 or 5 that you mentioned?
Yeah, and we have the resolutions that they have adopted here. And like I say, Bolton is almost identical to the one that we have. I think they have a $2,000 limit. Killingly has a $10,000 limit before they need approval. We're proposing a $5,000 limit. which kind of makes a good partnership that,
What type of government do they? Do they have boards of, what do they have, these towns? I mean, different
Which is one
towns,
of
like
the-
Killingly doesn't have a board of finance, I don't believe. I mean,
The
the
council
board,
members.
council members run the thing. I mean, how it's set up in different towns means a lot.
Mhm. I can give you copies of these. I can make copies. In Bolton, the fund shall be in custody of the treasurer of the town of Bolton, and all or any part of the monies in said fund may from time to time be invested in any securities which public funds may be lawfully invested. It's the town, annually the treasurer shall submit to the Board of Selectmen, to the Board of Finance, and to the Economic Development Commission a complete and detailed report of the condition of said funds, which report shall be made as part of the Bolton annual audit, which is pretty much which we are proposing that it is part of the audit, and I have to do a quarterly report to the Board of Finance. The accountability is pretty much, we cannot spend anything over $5,000 on infrastructure or anything without the approval of the Board of Finance. We follow, here's the boss.
What's the population of Bolton?
I don't know. Population of Bolton is.
It's about 8,000.
That many in Bolton?
Hi.
And Bolton was 2,000?
I don't have anything.
8,000, Doug just said.
Population.
No, getting back to what they're allowed to spend without,
Library board.
I think you said 2,000?
Up to 2,000.
Maybe you can sit on the desk.
I think we're good.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, the population of Bolton, Connecticut is 4,986.
That's only up 10%.
Only 50%, not bad.
50%.
Maybe that was in the budget.
That's how I work for the budget, exactly.
Plainville's about
Plainville?
25,000.
Coming right up, that's still gonna be a little bigger, I think.
They're near New Britain.
New Britain.
New Britain.
Thanks.
Find out, looking up the number, might as well get it.
Population of Plainville, Connecticut, which is in Hartford County, in 2010 census was 17,716.
We're almost in the middle.
Killingly is 17,000.
About 17,000.
Okay, let's go back to the agenda here. What are you looking for here?
And
6A. The water and sewer plan update.
Good news is we've got our tentative determination of our diversion permit for the well fields. That started, the clock started on that on November 19th. So as of December 19th, we'll be able to start throwing water out of our wells. The diversion permits allows us up to a maximum of $1.8 million, $8 million gallons per day, but we're going to be in the range of about a little bit over 1 million gallons per day. Will be a safe yield in terms of taking out of the well fields.
That's great.
The other thing is that we are closing on the, we had 2 loans and 2 grants under the, on the wastewater treatment plant project, and they have expended enough to be able to close on the second loan, which is in the range of about a little bit over $3 million. So we're going to be moving forward to close on that loan. We'll have a little bit of a remainder left, and that will be expended out of the grant, but we're fully expecting that we'll spend the full $18.8 million on the wastewater treatment plant project. The reason is that the WPCA, realizing that when they initially designed the plant, it didn't have a few of the things that they thought would be beneficial to having the plant after they gave it some more thought. One is being that there's going to be a vigorous odor control system put into place. I'm sure the people at the farmers market will appreciate that, and so that was one of the items. And we got a few other things that we thought would be important in terms of the overall plant operation. considering that you're spending almost over $18 million, and this is going to last us for a good long time, the WPCA wanted to make sure that the project was done well and still within budget. So,
How we doing with Thompson, anything?
Thompson, we had a very good meeting with Thompson 2 Saturdays ago?
Yes.
2 Saturdays ago. They're doing their due diligence. We're doing our due diligence in terms of what it would take to allow Thompson's sewage to come into the plant in Putnam. We certainly have more than enough capacity to handle it at the plant. The problem is the infrastructure between the plant and the Thompson town line. The pipes aren't big enough, and our pump station in Mechanic Street is not large enough. So what they'd be looking at is in terms of any improvements that we would be making to enlarge that system would have to be on their dime. So they're looking at it, and even though their costs they only anticipate about $500,000 in terms of improvements to their plant for nitrogen removal. They're looking at the long term, a 20 to 30 year window in terms of the most cost effective way of operating that plant, and whether it would be beneficial just to bypass that plant and bring all the sewage down to Putnam. They're looking at expanding Marinapolis, tying in, and eventually, if ever it comes about, the Thompson Hill tying in.
Yeah, just run it down into the French River.
Right. And the other thing that you should be aware of is that Pomfret is actively looking at bringing a line down from Pomfret School, Rectory School, and Luce Company.
Any idea when some of those things are going to?
Well, the nitrogen project up in Thompson has to be done relatively soon. So I think within the time frame of us doing our improvements to the we're also, as you know, we're doing the sewer lift station, which is in design stage now. So probably towards the end of the construction period on the 10 lift stations, Mechanic Street would probably be towards the end, so that we would know at that time whether Thompson's going to join with us or not, and then we can.
What would it cost them roughly to bring their lines, upgrade our lines?
I don't remember what the cost is. They're gonna run it all the way down to Canal Street.
Yeah, they'd have to get a wider pipe. So.
Pomfret's already got their money.
That's good.
Which means that more than likely Pomfret would probably hook up first before Thompson.
And the other good news is that we're expecting any day now, and I've said this before to your board, and but we fully expect that we're going to have the consent order lifted. So.
Did we ever, which has nothing to, I suppose it does. How much water did we buy from Killingly, if any?
We were able to buy as much as 800,000 gallons per day.
But how much have we bought?
We usually were buying it, the amount if we needed it. So we were close to 400 to 800,000 at certain times.
Peak.
Because what we would do is we would give the treatment plant on Little River rest, and then bring the water in, and we would fill up our tanks on the industrial parks and things like that.
I'm just curious.
And the other thing that is beneficial to us is they recently reduced their rates, and because we have increased our rates so much, it's actually could be more cost effective to buy water from them.
Yeah. That thought has crossed some people's minds.
So in the future, we'll be reporting on the progress of the lift station project and the progress of the manganese treatment building, and also the replacement of water lines and relining of water lines.
For
About it.
distance concern.
We're still on target for February to finish up
February.
the sewer
How
line.
about distance in terms of mileage on sewer lines?
We from Thompson?
Yeah, from Thompson.
Boy, somebody had figured it out. I forget what they said.
It
Somebody
wasn't that far
And what? To our line?
to our line.
No, it's not that far, but if you bring it down to
Canal Street.
Canal Street, it's quite a run.
Quite a run. There's such a thing as too much of a run.
That's exactly, you're right.
Too much of a what?
Too much of a run. That's one of the problems that
Yeah.
we have in terms of, if it stays too long in the pipes,
Right.
they start having.
There's also the possibility that they might just regulate it from their end and send it down at a certain pace, a certain flow. And in fact, they would set up a processing at their facility and just and hook up to our pipes, but not send it all at one time,
Right.
as I understand.
Because if it sits in the piping too long, then you won't get the full natural light that you expect at the start. That's why
Yeah.
But I mean, it's very encouraging to know that, because if that ever did happen, then we could cut the rate down in terms of what people in the special service district are paying for water and sewer.
Well, Jim Shaw, in his report that he put together, said that after 1 year's worth of revenue, okay, and running the operation either with one or both communities, would be able to look at our expenses, and he estimates that we would have a reduction in the sewer rates.
Yeah, we would have
for
to.
our users.
Yeah, it would have to be.
Well, that's an optimistic thought.
Well, that would be, we would hope that would happen. I mean,
Yeah.
you start taking in some income, and the plant can
Expenses are gonna go
run
down.
more efficiently. Yes, it makes sense to.
You got more revenue.
We're not in this to make money. We're just in this to, you know, to be able to provide a good service for the community.
Anything else on water and sewer plant?
I think that covers it.
Covers it?
The, we've issued a contract to, or we've given a notice to proceed to CME Engineering to do the design work on the manganese treatment. One of the provisions of the consent order, I'm sorry, the permit, diversion permit for the well field is that we have to install 2 Sentinel wells. And as part of our recent grant and loan from USDA, that had been included in that. And we also got that authorized through the town meeting referendum to install 2 Sentinel wells.
Where are you gonna put them?
On the north boundary of the well field, because of the industry on that area. And also we want to know about a certain degree of the impact on the Culper Brook in that area too.
Technology park.
We have had very fruitful discussions with Wheelabrator. We have we believe is basically our final draft agreement between Wheelabrator and the town. And as part of that agreement, it would reflect that Wheelabrator has taken care of the right of first refusal from the Newts. And on that basis, we'd be presenting probably when the new board gets constituted, the Board of Selectmen and new mayors in place, that we'll be bringing it to the Board of Selectmen for their review. So it'll be sometime during December. It's contemplated that if we approve this agreement, it's contemplated that the land will be transferred to the town by the end of December, and that the land, we could then transfer the land to the Newts by mid-January, which will allow us then to go forward with all the other aspects of the project, which would include us having the ability to go out to bid on the bridge, hopefully in the time frame of spring, so we could get this construction started this spring. And at that same time, we would be able to, the YMCA would go on a parallel track with the town in terms of constructing the YMCA. But they won't start their construction until they know that the town actually is moving forward on the construction of the bridge.
When is that?
That's that spring timeframe.
Right.
Is there any necessity to go into an executive session? like we
I
did last
don't want to
time?
go into executive session with you until I've had the chance to go into the executive session with the Board of Selectmen.
Right.
So,
Right. Makes sense.
Pomfret Street.
We have notified the state Department of Administrative Services that the town has, at this point, is no longer interested in pursuing the acquisition of the surplus property at the Dempsey Center. However, that doesn't preclude our opportunity to have a second bite of the apple. What the Department of Administrative Services will do now is they will go out for public requests for proposals, and if they get any requests for proposals come back in, and they decide to act on one of those requests for proposals, they have to come back to the town with that proposal, and the town has the opportunity to match it. And we would have another 45-day window in which to consider whether to match that proposal or not. And the other thing that still could be accomplished is that If this process drags out long enough, might be in the General Assembly, so the next session of the legislature. And if it's so desired, we could possibly pursue a conveyance legislation through the legislature. One of the things that the mayor-elect has discussed, and I think he brought up at one of the meetings, was the possibility of maybe housing for veterans. And we will be doing some research into that as to if there's any funding available and if this is a site that could accommodate that type of housing. So. But right now, the town does not have any interest expressed in that thought.
Amen.
Okay. D. The resolution, do you want to do that now or do you want to do it later?
Let's get out of the way.
What?
Let's get out of the way.
Okay. Delphi said you had thoughts.
Yes.
Peter said they have thoughts.
Someone said someone had thoughts.
Again, I'm completely in favor of us establishing an economic development trust fund, and I believe based on the fact that we found 3 other communities, at least that we know of, that have economic development trust funds already established. They have different ways of administering it and the safeguards that they put into place, and they have different reasons that they establish the economic development trust funds and what the funds can be used for. But I think that the proposal that you have, which again is based on the model of the Killenly one, is a good one, and I think it provides us with the necessary safeguards that will protect that the Economic Development Commission or the Economic Development Director couldn't go crazy in terms of expenditure of funds. The one thing that you're aware of, and I explained this when I was talking to the media, is that, for instance, if you decide that funds could be used from the sale of any proceeds from industrial park land, or, for instance, if we finally acquire the Wheelbury property, the proceeds from gravel, when that goes to town meeting, it first has to go to the planning commission, and it has to come back to you first. Because any sale of property in the town, which includes gravel, has to first come to the Board of Finance. So at that time, you can make a determination that if you establish this trust fund, that a certain portion of the proceeds from the gravel or the proceeds from the land could be set aside for being put into the trust fund. The other thing is that then you can make a determination that if you want 50-50 could be split, half to go into the trust fund, half to go back to the general fund. Then it would go, with your recommendation, then it would go to the town meeting, and based on the town meeting, it would be determined how those the funds would be apportioned. Some go into the general fund, or some could go into the economic development trust fund.
Why would you do that?
Why would we?
I mean, why wouldn't we?
I agree. Why wouldn't you? We're going to have development costs, and Delphi, as Delphi can tell you, that there are development costs that are associated with the industrial park on an ongoing basis. We know we're going to have development costs with the technology park, and instead of that coming out of general revenue,
right?
Why could we devote the funds that we would provide from the sale of land and also gravel on that site to be put into the back into the infrastructure improvement at the technology park? And again, anything that was sold up at the present industrial park, could be used for purposes. The other thing that you should realize, I think we do a good job of marketing, whether it's through the Putnam Business Association or through the Economic Development Commission, but I think we can still do a better job. And again, those aren't big ticket items in terms of expenditures. The big ticket items are going to be the expenditures on the infrastructure improvements. But again, that would give some flexibility in terms of the Economic Development Commission. And again, anything over $5,000, as it's written here, has to come back to the Board of Finance for review. One thing I would make a...
So then what happens? Who's making out the check? For
the town. The one thing I would do is that I would follow Bolton's language on their Economic Development Trust Fund, and it said the fund shall be in the custody of the treasurer of the town of Putnam, and all or any part of monies in said fund may from time to time be invested in any securities which public funds may be lawfully be invested. All income derived from such investments shall be paid into the fund and become a part thereof. So that specifically spells out that the fund's under the custody of the treasurer, so all the funds would have to be dispersed through the treasurer's office.
You hear that, Sandra?
I hear it.
Okay.
We've discussed
I mean,
that.
I mean,
Well, that's what I wanted to hear.
It has to be, it has to be.
one of the things, I don't think anybody here has, that wasn't put in our package, any of this stuff.
Yeah, we don't know, I
I
don't
mean,
even have a copy tonight
I
with me
remember.
of the
And
resolution.
nobody sent anything us with regards to Bolton or anywhere else. I mean, I don't have a problem with, like you say, with the conceptualization of the whole thing, but like anything else, the devil's in the details. And it's one thing to say,
Well, I don't necessarily think you should be using them as your model. either
well, no,
Bolton
but,
or
every, you're reading it,
But
I'm
I like the
not.
concept, I like the way it's set up. So you can use part of that
Right.
to set up.
And certainly, I would like to see the details of this whole thing. I would like to have a conversation with the town attorney, Mr. St. Ange, with regards to what his opinions are on that, and I'm sure we'll have more than one. And some conversation with him as to the whole thing, you know? Who's deciding on the percentages? Who's going to do this? You know, it comes from, you know, the sale of the land goes, and then it comes what have you. And if you're taking that 500,000 figure that you used the last time, maybe you're wrong figure, but and a lot of zeros anyway. I mean, how do you divide that up? And if in fact, you know, what are you talking about as a percentage? Goes into the fund, goes into the community trust fund, then goes into the general fund. I mean, how is that going to be determined between the Board of Finance and the Board of Selectmen? I mean, who's deciding that? You know.
Well, many money matters ultimately have to come on.
Well, yeah, but you know, to do this, you could. I mean, to be honest, I think there has to be at least some harmonious attempt to everybody being on the same page. You know, when it comes down to the spending of the funds, you know, when you start talking about infrastructure, which, you know, certainly with water, I mean, you're talking about serious money.
Right.
Water, sewage, roads, electricity, all that stuff is serious money.
So the draft that you received that came from Attorney St. Ange, because he drafted it, when he and I had a conversation. So the draft that he has approved, would you like us to put the section that Bolton is
Now,
using?
I would
What
like
you
to read the section from Bolton
Okay.
before you put it in.
Sure.
The other thing I'd like to know is, in terms of the general fund, how much money would we be losing out of the general fund in a normal year?
Well,
If it goes into
it
the-
determines if you bond it, then you're looking at what are the principal and interest costs on
Yeah.
the bonding for the infrastructure.
But I'm trying to get an idea of what's coming out of the general fund, because that's money we're not gonna have, because it's going into a different fund. So it's gonna affect the budget in some way. Some money is coming out.
I mean, if you know, it's like, I'm not opposed to it. It's one thing to talk about, you know, when the number 5,000 comes up, it becomes such almost an inconsequential amount of money to the budget of the town. It's not a lot of money. But when you start talking about 500,000, now that's talking about a lot of money, and it'll pique a whole variety of interest, and it should. If in fact it wasn't for that money, somehow or other, I would suggest that the water, the sewage, the upgrades, whatever needs to be done in that park, either is going to be by federal grant, state grant, somebody's something somewhere, or we're borrowing the money. How much do we borrow? I don't know. I don't know where that money would come from. Delphi probably would have an idea, but you want right off the bat, like some of the park up in Yukon, for the state to pay as much as it can, whatever the percentages, like we are at the school. How much are they going to kick in with regards to the whole thing, and then we have a final number. I mean, all those numbers are tax rates, are mill rates, are everything. And we talk about 5,000 like it's, well, you know, it's all, that's, you know, okay, you know, that these numbers are going to be six figures. These are going to be serious, serious, serious numbers. And when you start talking about it, there's got to be a way for paying some of that stuff. And I'd like to know, even with the Board of Selectmen, what is the feeling on some of this stuff, other than saying, oh gee, put it in, it's only a little bit here and a little bit there, and then it means selling whatever you get from the industrial park and other parcels.
Yeah.
Wherever the other, I don't know what the other
And you're not-
parcels, I don't know what the other parcels are. I mean, I read the newspaper just like everybody else does. And, I mean, certainly that opinion piece that was in the last bulletin, whenever that was, maybe it was a week, I don't know when it was. But whenever it was, spoke well of it. But, when they also got to the point of, how do you do this? I mean, it's one thing to talk about doing it, and I'm not opposed to talking about it. I'm not opposed to doing it. But I want to know how it's going to be done. I mean, where does this go? I mean,
Well, I would anticipate that the Economic Development Commission would come up with a plan for you to review.
yeah.
And let's say there was $500,000 in that fund. The Economic Development Commission would say, we would like $100,000 for engineering, design work for the tech park. Is that something we can expend the dollars on?
I mean, I know-
Here's how it would be spent. I can show you, you gave us $100,000, or not you, but you approved through the
Yeah.
capital improvement
Yeah.
program, $100,000. That gets eaten up rather
Right.
quickly. It's,
Right. I mean,
and that's not even putting it into the, the bricks and mortar. That's just the design work necessary to come up with the cost, so we can put the brick and mortar out there.
Just like the Economic Development Commission, which I personally don't know much about it, because it doesn't come in front of us, it's never have, I've never been on it, and I can't tell you who's there, but I understand I don't know how much money they have from whatever it is they have, but I understand it's more than $1.50.
Well, it's all under the
Well,
economic
yeah,
development.
well, it's kind of like getting with the Board of Education. How much money do they have? Well, but it's all under somewhere else. But the only time that somewhere else and this where comes when they want to take it from the town, taking town money from whatever sale of the land, and they want to put it in, and doesn't that all make a fine package? I appreciate that, but it still comes out to a lot of money, and who's got control of it or who has oversight, get control out of it, but who at least has oversight of where this is. It's easy.
Well, you have a quarterly report.
We have a line item, and we have a departmental budget within the annual budget. Other than
It's not six
other
figures.
than salaries, we have $43,000 in our budget. And that is for everything from marketing the industrial park to economic development and community development. Community development meaning all of the projects that we do outside of the industrial park. It's marketing businesses to Putnam, it's being involved in the Putnam Business Association, it's building farmers markets and community gardens and everything that I report on. But every year that gets cut a little bit. And this has only happened within the past 3 years. When I first started this position, my first task was to close out the industrial park grant. The industrial park grant, which was initiated in 1986, pretty much built the industrial park. That was state money. We built our incubators through CDBG funds. So when that grant went away, that's when there was salaries to my counterpart. There was engineering costs that we could help develop, site plans, and the town, through the grant, paid for the development of the industrial park. It put in infrastructure. It helped to market the properties. All of that has gone away. So in our annual budget of the $43,000, we do everything from professional services, marketing. We don't have office supplies, but there's a whole rundown, that we would gladly give you. And that's grants writing, that's everything that we bring in to the community. It's, so my initial thought of why we were asking for this reinvestment fund is to fill a gap that isn't served anymore. When we try and sell anything in the industrial park, it goes back to the general fund.
Right.
So we have no way to invest. So an example, to sell lot 9, which is a flag lot in the back, no one wants to purchase that property because they have to invest, just to put sewer, gas, and water into that flag lot is over $80,000 just to put access into it. So they're going to spend $53,000 for a 2-acre or 1.67 acre property, but they still have to invest to even get into that property. The grant before it was closed out after 30 years, they would have paid for that. We don't have that any longer. So luckily, we've had a lot of activity in the industrial park in the past 2 years. And we'll, absolutely, we have lot 9 to sell, which is that flag lot, and we have lot 5. And there is no access into lot 5. Whoever purchases that has to put in the water and sewer for that also. Of course, it runs by there, but not on lot 9. So those are the only 2 lots that I have left. So it's just, and I'm competing with other, the town of Putnam is competing with other industrial parks and that kind of.
So you needed more really for the tech park,
Well, I
going
think,
forward.
well, sure, because once this industrial park is full,
I mean, you only
that's
got
our
2
next,
more.
that's our next project. And lot 9, I mean, these, I can remember the state saying lot 19, which is the one that we're just selling with right of first refusal for the rest of the lot. We're selling that after 30 years. We're doing wonderfully by selling the lots. Lot 5-1 has just been sold. When that, and I want to pre-plan. I don't want to just say, okay, all of our lots are, sold. And when someone is looking to come to Putnam, because people want to come to Putnam for a lot of various reasons. We can talk about the downturn in the economy, but we are doing extremely well. So instead of making reactive decisions, our plan closes out with the state of Connecticut. We don't have to get permission from them for selling any lots in our industrial park as of January 2014. That's 2 months away. That's 6 weeks away. So one of the reasons to ask to cooperatively work with economic development and the Board of Selectmen through the Board of Finance is to help proactively what's the next phase of what we want to invest in economic development. And our proposal is the industrial park, but we need to set up the mechanisms and the tools in order to do that.
I agree with you,
Right.
It's wonderful, but I'd like to know how much, not in absolute terms, but approximately, that we're pulling out of the general government fund. How much money are we going to be pulling out of there? Do we have, I'd like to see some kind of a report that tells us how much is coming out of the general government.
I'm not sure that we have the ability to show that, only because the way that we did it, well, but what I'm saying is we have a lot of tools to work with. One of them being the grants that we're going to find. One is, and there are opportunities that may come up. Right now, we only have 2 lots. Well, there's still lot 19 to put that money in that pool, and then whatever gravel, and probably we can come up with some kind of figure for that. So I can base what we would be taking out of selling those 2 lots. But again, unless I have something to invest in lot 9 to get into lot 9, that's not going to happen.
But again, that's lot 9. You got 2 more lots.
I have 1 more lot.
1 more lot. So going forward, we're talking about the tech park, really.
Right.
Setting up
Absolutely.
this.
Absolutely.
Because the other one's almost sold out.
Yes.
Okay, so now this is the 3rd month. We've either tried to talk about it, nobody was here, or whatever, didn't understand what we're talking about. So the resolution itself that we saw, which none of us now have tonight in front of us because it was in our packet before. That just establishes the fund, doesn't say anything about how much money we're willing to put in it?
Right.
Right, okay. So then, from what you said a long time ago here tonight, then what would establish the procedure? Is there another thing that has to be attached to that to establish the procedure that you talked about? Like if a piece of land, a lot was being sold, it comes here for approval, we say you can have 50% of the money? I mean, do you,
Well, I
is the
think
procedure that
what-
every single
I think
sale
what
you're going to
Peter's-
decide?
What Peter's getting to is that if we had an idea, for instance, and don't take this is just for discussion purposes. We initially had a figure of $11 million for infrastructure development costs for the tech park. Roads, utilities, you name it, in terms of, so that came down to about $3 million if we got the 75-25 split with the state of Connecticut, if we had a regional component to the tech park. If we had to go it alone, it'd be a 50-50 split. So you take 11,000, it'd be about $5.5 million. Whatever that is, spread out over 30 years. Yeah, here.
I can do it for you, Phil.
That would be basically the carrying cost for the industrial park, for the tech park. That would be in round numbers. That's basically being very conservative. And but again, a lot could be that. For instance, when we go and get sewer and water, we've been getting a 25% grant as a component of that. So, and when we did our calculations, it was only based on a loan only. So when we actually got the actual interest rate, first of all, we got a better interest rate than we had initially conservatively estimated, and then we got the grant component. So, there's a lot of factors that happen after you decide to go forward with the tech park. That after you realize what you can get, and you don't know that until you actually apply for it. There's some unknowns there. Usually, it's been good to the town and to the WPCA, but you don't know that in the future.
If you take worst case scenario without getting a partner, 5.5 million at 3% over 30 years, amortized straight line depreciation, about 280,000 per year.
Per year. So I'll take that. Let's round it up to 300,000. Huh?
Cheap money.
But you're not going to get 300,000
I understand.
every year from this
No.
if you voted, because, let's say we get the gravel and that's 100,000, that's a one-time thing.
Right.
We start selling the land, and what are you getting in it per acre?
About 36,000.
So you times, let's say it's a 5-acre parcel, times that.
So is it going to be more per parcel up in the tech park than it is in the old industrial park?
We haven't had that appraised yet.
Well, one of the problems is that we were going to get the
Location
park.
probably would make it better,
Right.
appraised better.
I've spoken to two folks in Killingland who were on what used to be, I don't know what it's called.
Town council.
Town council. And both of the individuals that I spoke to, kind of thought it wasn't a bad idea with regards to the town council. Again, but they're acting in a whole different facet of how they. Well, yeah, they're the beginning and the end. It doesn't go anywhere else. They're saying you want to sell Grant's potato field to this guy, fine. That's what it is. They decide it, and it goes on from there. Plus, it's much larger how they're figuring some of this stuff. But they didn't think it was a bad idea. Their answer again seemed to be is how you set it up, and that's.
Well, in both the case of Plainville and Bolton, the recommendation comes out of the Economic Development Commission, but it's either, it wasn't the Board of Finance in either of those cases, but it was either the Board of Selectmen, but in the case of Plainville, it was the Town Council.
Yeah.
So those were the two, the bodies that ultimately made the determination what the recommendation.
And that's a good system for that program, going right to the town council. I mean, that's good. That's a good program. How that works out. I don't know what other places do. There's 172 towns in Connecticut. 172, something like. 169. Yeah, a couple more. But 169 more, and there's got to be something out there that subsidizes or runs economic development commissions can't believe that these
So the
larger
Killenly is
towns
10.
don't have one.
Killenly is 10,000,
50.
50? And you want
I don't
5?
know. You say 5,000 is a
Oh,
lot
what do you
of
mean?
money,
Talking
but
about
5,000
population or
each
dollars?
time,
No, I'm talking dollars.
Yeah.
without
Anything
having any
over
kind of
5,000,
approval
5,000.
for
What's
it,
going
turns
on?
Yeah.
out to be a lot.
Exactly.
And is the expectation that you would come in front of the Board of Finance with a quarterly report each time, the same as the town? And
No, that was another point. All checks are cut by the treasurer.
And I am more than happy to give her the fiscal reporting responsibilities. I'd be more than happy to give that to Cindy.
But I mean, I like the idea,
That's why
sometimes
she has the new
the
computer
voting
system.
plan.
Are you pleased?
You want one more shot at us and?
I tell you, I mean, my feeling, I don't know if it's just mine, is that, you know, we're all gonna be here next month anyway.
No,
No?
January.
January. No, we can be here next month if we want to. And
23rd, we'll have Christmas.
you know, whenever we have the next meeting, perhaps a couple of folks from the Board of Selectmen, a couple other folks, yourself, maybe have some extended conversation as to how some of this is happening, come forth with, I mean, Bill got that from, I mean, added some stuff from Killenly too and what have you. So, you know, we'll have his input into some of it. And again, it's the devil is in the detail. How are we going, it's one thing to say, have trust fund, probably everybody's gonna say, fine, now let's talk about what are we putting into it? You know, $500, oh gee, not a problem.
You're right.
You know, 500,000
I mean, I'm afraid we're gonna get a trust fund, I don't see any money going.
Yeah. And, you know, and you sit here and you say, you know, you need $80,000 worth of infrastructure for a $30,000 lot. You know, you've got to wonder how that all works too. I don't know.
That's why it hasn't for 30 years.
Well, it's probably not a bad idea that,
Moving closer.
you know, moving closer.
Okay.
So that'd be my thought for
Better than before.
January. Would that work for you, Douglas?
Unless we get the land from Wheelabrator and we're starting to take gravel off of it, and I lose that opportunity to,
Well, you know, I mean, you know.
we can always put it in,
You always put it in a bank account somewhere, I'm sure the treasurer can find
What you doing now?
a pot for it somewhere.
Because we will have the sales agreement be, sometime in January for the subdivision for lot 19 to Gloucester also.
Well, it is what it is. You know, I mean, but people should send us the stuff and not quote from it, like we should have read it.
Yeah, I want to see what we're voting on, what is being suggested, or how that still going. I'm a little worried that every time that you sell something, at some point this board changes. Do you really not want some sort of recommendation of how much goes in there, or percentage, or?
May I propose that we come up with a document, Doug and I will come up with a document, send it to you at least 2 weeks before the next meeting, and then we can have discussion, but you will have something visual?
I don't think that's enough time.
Okay.
2 weeks before is like nothing.
Okay.
I mean, in my life,
Okay.
you know,
Yes,
that's pretty
absolutely.
quick. I mean, if I have to send my emails to Mr. St. Ange and he gets back in a timely fashion or what have you, or the other questions, kind of you want to toss some of this stuff around before saying, you know, this is I don't mind getting the document, but I like the document in front, you know, by a lot, so that I can ask whoever I want. If I want to talk to whoever I want to talk to in Killingly, if I want to talk to anybody wants to talk to wherever they want to talk to, get some information somewhere, because you come here sometimes without the information, you think we're making a good idea going forward, and I think this is a good idea, but the details, that's the good, not the idea. The idea is probably pretty good, you know, but it's more to it than that.
Can are you only looking for that document, or are you looking for the documents that they're
Details.
taking the quotes off of?
Yeah.
These things
Yeah.
off of?
Well,
We'll
we'll
put them-
compile
we'll put them
it, we'll
back.
compile
We'll
it
put
as
percentage with-
a new document.
I don't know if Delphi mentioned, but we do have the statutory authority citation.
Yeah, I did.
Okay. So we'll put that out together in a package. And if we find out any more towns, we did a search.
And it's one thing to give us the citation. The second part of the whole thing is the citation's one thing. You really want to know whether or not that citation has been tested. And if it has been tested, has it been found wanting or not? Just the citation isn't telling you anything. It just says you're entitled to do it, but there are 5 other cases somewhere that said, well, you can do it, but here are the conditions therein. And it's just not as simple as the citation.
Well, what they use as a citation is basically that you establish a sinking fund. And you can set up a sinking fund. You do it with your capital non-recurring. So that's considered a sinking fund. It carries over from one fiscal year to another. Another example of a sinking fund is WPCA could be setting aside their funds that they need for the principal and interest on the bonds that the town has gone out for in terms of the payment. So if they establish a sinking fund, that would be just dedicated for the purposes of paying off the bond and interest on the general obligation bonds that the town took under their belt. And so we know that those funds were guaranteed to pay off the bonds, and it wouldn't come out of the general fund revenue.
Are we all the same wavelength?
Yeah.
We just don't want to call it a sinking fund, because that's
Yeah,
just.
let's move on. I know that. Happy holiday doing that. Okay. Jumping down the line here. Collectibles, we did that, didn't we? Yes, we did. New business, consideration of the approval for the appropriation of $300,000 from the ash landfill account for the purpose of land for the proposed library site. A vote is required.
I have a question.
Yes,
When's the referendum?
December 17th,
Town meeting?
December 2nd.
December what, I'm sorry.
Second.
So
12/17.
I hope this goes through. But what if it doesn't? Are we stuck for the $300,000?
No.
No.
What do you mean? If this doesn't get approved at town meeting or referendum, you don't spend the $300,000.
Okay.
It has to go through the referendum, and if it's approved referendum, then we buy the land. If it doesn't, we
Okay,
buy the land.
I just want to make sure that we don't have the copy go to us.
Any other questions on it to anyone? There are a lot of people in the audience. I got a feeling.
They're all waiting for us.
They're all napping. For the other part.
Don't feel any
Don't put this on the record, but they already threatened the planning commission that they're going to see them on the parking lot.
So what do we need a motion?
Planning commission approved it?
Just for public information, we did receive word today that we have received $1 million grant.
Oh,
Oh, nice.
Very good.
Can I just, is that wetlands over there?
No.
It's my imagination that I've seen it like ice over the.
That's when you were a child.
It's called.
See,
It's not
not-
wetland, but it's wetland.
It's not your imagination because it's very flat. And if it snowed on it and then melted, it very well could have frozen.
Oh, I remember water, I could have sworn
Yeah.
I remember water pooling there
Yeah.
before when I was younger.
Probably
That
the
was
thing
the
that
flood.
saves it.
I wasn't
Probably
around
West Townsend
then.
Dam saves that.
The West Tonkin Dam, the Southbridge Dam,
Yeah.
and the
Up the
Holland
river.
Dam.
Yeah, love it.
That was my only concern.
I make
Anyone
a
else?
motion that we do what we have to approve.
Well,
Make a recommendation to approve the appropriation of $300,000.
Yeah.
is there a second?
Second.
Discussion. Call the question. All those in favor of the motion?
Aye.
All those opposed? Thank you.
Thank you.
What do we jump over here? Bond debt limitations, do we do that? No, we didn't. That's that big one.
I know that there
Trustee Benz?
Start reading page 1.
This is about.
No, you got your sheet here. You got to read the entire thing. I think you were provided a sheet.
Yeah, we were. It should be like
Oh, yeah, well,
Okay, that's the statement of statutory debt limitation as of the 27th of November 13th, right?
This was developed because we are going out for approximately $11.5 million in bond anticipation notes to fund the school, the water line replacement, the manganese treatment building, and the sewer lift station. So all those projects are put into that one bond. It's going to be done in 2 lots. One is approximately a $4 million lot called Lot A, which comes due at the end of February, and that's on the basis of the fact that we expect that the wastewater treatment plant project will be accomplished. So we won't have to carry that full bonding capacity for the full year. The remainder of $7 million plus will be for all the other projects. We recently had those, the interest on the first lot is 0.65.
0.65, yeah, it's about.
0.65. The interest on the second lot, B, is 0.70. So it's even better than the price we got last year. The thing that caused some concern when all this was, it came out in this statement, was I went to of course we have a financial advisor who's Dennis Dix, and he's been before your group, and also our bond counsel who is Attorney Joe Fozzie. We've had Attorney Fozzie for a long time. It became clear that when you look at that number highlighted, the $54,623,528, currently that's our gross amount under the debt limitation statute. And we are only allowed a total of $63,100,933. So that puts us only $8.4 million off our debt limitation. That was a matter of concern to our bond counsel and our financial advisor, particularly with the fact that I had asked them to put together the various documents that we need to bring the library project to a vote. If you do the library project, the gross cost of that is approximately $8 million. So that puts us right up against the debt limitation. Of course, you're going to factor out the $1 million grant that you got, so we're basically looking at $7 million. But that's still too close.
Too close.
And the question is, and it was more a policy question from the standpoint he wanted us to be aware that you're very close. And the other thing is you went forward with that project that if you had a major disaster or any other types of emergency that required you to have some bonding authority, you wouldn't have any. And that you should always get a special act, but what if the legislature wasn't in session? And you'd be really in a tight spot. We have had discussions with Moody's already, and I guess we'll be going to Moody's for the rating. But when you look at the school project, the full cost of that, the appropriation approved by the town was $36.6 million. We know we're going to get at least $20 million of that reimbursed by the state. But the thing is, we don't have that project approved yet, so until we do, they still have to carry that full $36 million under a debt limitation. But we know in the future that when we go out to bonding, that is going to be reduced by $20 million, and the net cost of the town is going to be $16 million. So that will add $20 million to the debt limitation.
When will that be?
2 years.
2 years.
Well, we're going to know. They're going to approve this project in February. And then at the end of in June, when we start to go out and we start getting reimbursed, the project, as school projects go, the construction is reimbursed on an ongoing basis.
Right.
So as that project is built, we're going to be paying out and we're going to be getting reimbursed by the
I
state.
understand that if we get the $1 million for the library, they have a year and a half to spend it?
I think 2 years.
2 years to spend it, okay. All right.
So Moody's is going to take that into account, that they're going to realize that you've got the school project and it's going to be approved at some reimbursement rate, so they're comfortable that that 36.6 million is not going to be your final figure for, under the debt limitation for the school. The other thing is on the sewers, which is a 16 point, well, actually netted out the grants. We're down to 14.6. They realize that that is being paid for by the users. So again, that can be basically they'll be able to sort of take that out of the equation. They're going to take that into account, but they also know that it's going to be paid for by the users. So that 14.6 is not something that they will say is hard and fast in terms of our being counted on our debt limitation. So that being the case, it was the recommendation of our bond counsel and our financial advisor that we go to get a rating because the impact will be, we haven't had anything rated for the town, I don't know how long. It's been since 1995, I think.
And we did the school roof, right?
No, that wasn't even rated.
We borrowed against our real rate of money.
So we haven't had a rating since, I don't know what the project was. It was maybe middle school?
Middle school?
Middle school.
A long time ago.
A long time ago. He was comfortable, Moody's was comfortable in giving us basically an A1 or an A rating at least, which is a good rating. The only thing that would hold back the town is basically our social economic demographics. Our per capita income is a limiting factor when you take a look at the big picture. But when they look at the financial aspect of the town, we're in great shape. We just upped our ability to put aside fund balance as a reserve to 10%. In addition to that, we've got additional funds under the fund balance. So they look at that as being healthy for a community to have those types of reserves. The other thing is that we have over $4 million that we have in the ash landfill. Again, that's really dedicated for a particular purpose, but there's nothing that holds us to borrowing against it. So those are all very good indicators that the town is in good financial shape.
How about just curious, I mean, you get the treasurer here, how are we doing with the pension obligation?
We're over 100%.
100%.
We're 100%. So the question would be, we certainly would want to have the results of the rating.
We have to get our audit first.
The audit first.
And then we have to get it rated. The other thing that we have to show is 3 years of the sewer and water departments being able to pay their obligations, which won't be a problem at all. We can go back 2 years. In fact, they have been putting aside money into their, I forget what they call it, it's not a fund reserve surplus. It's in an enterprise fund, it's counted as a different type.
I know what you're talking about, just get the name of it.
Yeah.
I don't want to call it a sinking fund either.
It's not a
Sinking fund, no?
But they've put a lot of money aside because they've raised the rates considerably with the anticipation that we're going to be having the permanent financing on all these projects. So they have money set aside, and that's a good thing. So from the WPCA side, it won't be any trouble at all to show them that for the past 3 years they've met their obligations on any borrowing that's required. In fact, we have
What's the highest rating you can get?
AAA.
AAA.
So that's like a Waterford when they had the
You don't
Greenwich
see
is AAA because they pay as they go. They don't bond anything.
You don't see many.
You don't see many AAAs.
All right, well, anyway.
But anyway,
if we get an A1, we'll be in good shape.
Oh, yeah, but we just can't do anything until we get this stuff done.
So we're looking, we get the audit done by, hopefully, keep our fingers crossed, we want to go for a extension. We'll get it done for December 31st. Get that done, we'll meet with Moody's. They'll probably come out here to meet with us. And, we'll have a good session with them and try to put our best foot forward and try to prove that, we're worthy of a good rating. So.
Okay.
So nothing else should be done, in terms of funding or anything, until such time.
Until that is defined.
The other thing too is that you just overlooked it. These Putnam Fire District's bond is in here too. That's paid. That's included in this total.
3.3.
Yeah, but they're going to count everything.
The funding, the borrowing that they made for for the fire station, that's in here too.
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean that we're responsible for it, it's just.
I understand.
It's underlying of the town.
It's the town's liability.
Okay, pay classification, fiscal year 2014 to 15.
One of the things that we have not done in a while, and under the charter, there's a provision that the Board of Finance sets the rate of pay for all town hall or town employees, and the Board of Education, of course, is excluded from that.
Of course.
Well, we haven't had a pay classification study to determine where we stand in relationship to other towns. And again, it was just an idea that we thought maybe at this time it would be something that.
Here in Greenwich.
Excuse me. No. We compare it to, there's a certain category, I think it's the same category they use for the schools system in terms of the communities of the same.
They call it a DIRG, demographic reference group.
So we'll compare,
I'm afraid
if
of
you
those
decide
things.
this is a good idea to do it this time, then, we'll go ahead and do that.
Who does it?
We'll get a consultant in to do it.
That's what I thought.
We can do it ourselves, in-house.
If that's fair.
That's not
Yeah.
really, yeah.
And the other thing that brought this up is last year, the Board of Selectmen decided that because of what the town tax revenue collector had been doing, that we wanted to reflect that and give her a pay increase. It was brought out at the meeting that if she was getting one, then certain other people should get it, and so that fell flat on its face because
When was the last time we've had an increase? Paid.
we do an increase every year, and it's just based on the union.
Yeah, but you take the same raise the union takes, basically.
Right.
Basically, right.
2%.
Well, when we do the union raises, we do a comparison. And again, that was 3 years ago, but we do it every time we go to negotiations. So we know where we stand in terms of our union employees, but we have no idea where we stand in terms of our town employees. So I think everybody's happy, and, they're glad to be working for the town, and, there's a good benefits package, but it's something that maybe we should do on a regular basis.
When was the last time you did it for the town?
The thing I did was, I think we did something in 2006.
Well, if everybody's happy, why are we doing it?
Well,
I mean, happy.
But I think it would reflect that.
I think they had legitimate reasons for increasing the tax collector. Unfortunately, during the deliberations and the budget, Barney piped up and said, well, if they're gonna give her a raise, they're gonna give his wife a raise too. And it just kinda killed it, I think that, I happen to feel that at that time there, had the tax collector got a raise, I think that the town clerk would have got a raise too. I think Barney shot off his mouth at the wrong time,
I actually don't remember that.
But I'll say this, it does come at a bad time to a certain regard, because I'm talking about the special service district having to pay that enormous 150% more for water and sewer is like a mill tax rate just on them.
Yeah.
So in addition to that, we've got renovated new high school coming up in another 2 or 3 years. We're going to need another mill, and we've got the library. They're looking for 3/4 of a mill, whenever that point in time is, a couple of years down the road. So.
Well, I don't want to do that. The downside with that, in addition to that, is that if the treasurer or somebody,
Not the treasury, I mean the,
Revenue.
revenue
Revenue
collector,
did I say treasurer?
yeah.
I did,
Yeah,
but
that's what I thought you meant.
it was a revenue collector.
The revenue collector, they're going to get a list, and everybody's going to say, given a town of 8,000 or whatever the number is, they're making X number of bucks, and I'm making X number of bucks.
It's going to reflect, years of service. And
Well,
that.
but
That's why you would hire a consultant.
I understand that, but you're hiring a consultant to work for you.
No, it will work for you.
It's not-
It will work for
Yeah,
you,
well,
because you're
you know.
the agent, you're the.
We will never talk to him.
Huh?
We will never talk to him.
Well, you could initially if we
I
hired.
could, but who's talking to him? It won't be me, it will be you. Who's giving him the numbers? It won't be me, it'll be you. So, and I don't,
No,
that's.
they go out independently.
Yeah, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, I
You know what I'm saying. That's just how it is, but you do this, and, there's a downside to it too, about happy today, how come they're making $10,000 more somewhere else? Now I'm unhappy, happy.
And realistically, you can't usually make across-the-board increases to get everybody to where they're supposed to be all in one fiscal year.
No.
Because,
That's not-
as we all know, town meetings bite.
Yeah. You're right.
And, especially when you talk
No,
about, I know
no.
Tony talks about 0 milling rate, what have you. I don't know that it's even possible.
I guess he wants to know, do we want to do this or not?
What?
I guess, I don't know if we really came up with a consensus on whether or not we
We should
want
be
to
doing
do
that.
this or not.
Well, I think we would also need to know how much do
It
you,
would cost for a consultant.
per
right?
consultant, yeah.
But you come back at a January meeting with a little bit of a proposal of, how much it
Cost.
would cost to bring a consultant and what his charge would be, his duties, things like that.
And maybe from 2005, in 2005, did they go across the board like that, or did they,
Nothing happened.
did it go, okay, all
Nothing happened.
right.
They've done it.
Wise people, then.
I mean, it's basically, I think it was more internal type of thing.
Because I think you'd want to look at.
We just want to see if where we were.
Yeah, you'd want to look at the positions that really have been the least, the ones that are at the lowest.
Point. But again, you run into the problem, if you do one, you might have to do.
Well, I think that's why you have
across
to
the
do it
board.
in stages. You would have to, and I'm sure the consultant would say that as well, that you're going to do certain categories in stages.
Well, they basically put, minimums and maximums.
Yeah,
So
minimum and maximum.
you could be in the middle, if you're in the
Yeah.
middle, high middle, that's where you want to be.
Right.
Within our group of towns, whatever they consider.
You're right, we did that a long time ago. I remember when I was on Board of Selectmen when they did it. Did it for the sewer WPCA too.
So if you're in the middle, no problem.
Yes.
You want to be higher middle, basically is how I always.
When you
look at it.
wet your finger and put it up to the wind, what did it come out to be?
No, you think,
We were on-
I think what's wrong is we don't have a min and a max for some of these people that are in these positions.
Yeah.
I mean, if I'm a tax collector, or anybody that's a department head in this town, I know that I'm getting this amount of money. There's really not that much motivation for me to come up with new ideas or think outside the box, because I know that if I get evaluated, they do an evaluation like they're supposed to start, here, coming to performance evaluation, I'm not gonna move up, because all I'm gonna do is hope that the union gets 2.5%, so I can get 2.5%. And I think as an employee, I've always liked the fact that there was a min and there was a max, and I knew that there was a chance that I might get up to that max someday. So, that's how I would base my performance during the year,
I
based
guess
on
there's nothing wrong
goals
with
and everything
that.
else. What's that?
I guess there's nothing wrong with having an evaluation, it ought to get costs to see
Yeah,
what.
I mean, I assume Doug's got somebody in mind, or
Yeah.
he's,
Well, there's firms out there.
yeah, what have you, I mean, what's it cost to do it? I don't know.
Right.
Yeah.
That's it.
I agree with him.
Sounds good.
Yeah, sounds good.
Thank you.
Where are we here? We did that?
Motion
E.
to adjourn.
No, wait a
No,
minute,
no,
so
no.
before we adjourn, Sue, I believe this is your last meeting?
It is.
It is your last meeting.
Trying not to smile all the way through it.
That's me. That's
I'm
me.
sorry.
I
I
think-
hope someday to return to
And I
something.
think if I recall correctly, about 4 years ago when you ran, you weren't sure you were gonna run for those 4 years,
No,
right?
I was not.
You did.
Is that right?
That'd be good too.
How long have you been on the board?
6 years.
6 years, as a voting member. Okay. Well, I just wanted to thank you on behalf of the town for your service for the last 6 years.
Thank
You want to come back? Who knows?
Someday, I
Someday.
think.
And Peter, well, he's getting promoted, so it's no big deal.
Hey, can you come back as an alternate? Peter, can you come back as an alternate? Can you come back as an alternate?
That's a no. Who's that, Peter? Is that what you said?
That's the wrong one.
That's-
No, no,
Peter.
no. Well, I was just hoping.
Well, Peter, how many years did you serve?
5 years.
Oh, 5, okay.
Yes, got into it.
5 and 6. But you're moving up to the big time now. But we thank you for your service, Tom.
Thank you.
All right?
We'll get our
Thank
feet
you.
wet.
You get your big slip, is that what you
No,
said?
I'll get my feet wet, I
Feet
said.
wet.
Okay. All right, that's all I have to say.
That's the mayor's pen, I
Motion to
wouldn't
adjourn.
want to steal it.
For a second.
Oh, good.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.